That is the legal expert William Booth there weighing in on matters moving the needle outside of the conference venue, Sally, but that definitely have an impact on what's going on inside the conference venue. If you read the letter from the State Attorney's Office, it alludes to this conference and the ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa's candidature to continue as president as being one of the motives for this bid to privately prosecute him by former President Jacob Zuma. So it's all linked. It may be happening outside, but actually it's all linked with what's going on inside the conference. Let's bring in David Mahlobo into the conversation, a member of the National Executive Committee, as well as you serve in many capacities, peace and security,
I'm the chair.
as well as being part of the conference preparatory committee. And I suppose I want to start there. We saw delegates a bit earlier on, I believe they were going for either late lunch or early dinner. Locate us, where are we in terms of progress inside the conference?
Thulas, thank you very much, and to a very good evening to all your viewers across the length and breadth of our land and beyond. At this stage, the conference has taken a break. We've taken a number of reports, especially the organizational report, the DP, and then the Treasurer's report, constitutional amendments. We also took a report on strategy and tactics, and including a report on the Renewal Commission. At this stage, the conference is supposed to reconvene at 1900. We have taken a little bit of an early dinner that is long. As we are sitting now, the National Conference Preparatory Committee is sitting with the Credentials Committee. They are wrapping up the important part about the bona fides of those that are here. And they will brief the officials later on when we convene at 7. We'll then be in a position to consider the credentials, and then from there the rules of the conference and other committees that must be set up.
Yeah, just talking about the bona fides of those who are here, as well as the conversation around credentials, who is rightly in the room when the critical conversations are being had. Why was it so difficult for you yesterday to get delegates registered? It didn't put out a good showing for you in the eyes of all these guests, including international guests that you've invited. Some would even say these people can't even run their own conference properly, let alone run government properly. This is actually a sign of how the ANC is failing.
It became a black dot on our spot yesterday. The issue that the ANC couldn't start on time. There were various reasons that why we couldn't start on time, but it never put us in a good position in terms of those that have been invited. We should have started our conference in time, but there were a number of glitches. But I can safely report now that the teams have been working flat out, a very good cooperation from the delegates. And with the support of the regional leaders, who are normally very closer to them with the provincial leaders, at this stage they are concluding that. But also the incident that happened in the opening session, those are the issues that yesterday we were not proud as a leadership of the ANC. But ultimately, the situation became under control.
Yeah, you're talking about the attempts at heckling, in fact, the heckling of the ANC president by some delegates, especially from KwaZulu-Natal.
Yes, and but ultimately, those of us who were working with the provincial leadership were able to calm the situation, and we are very grateful that the response was very positive by many delegates across provinces, even certain delegates from KwaZulu-Natal. Those few of them, they could not actually have those intentions of disrupting, being successful. But today, we started on time. The conference is very cordial.
Yeah.
The delegates are there. And we hope that normally the contested item called credentials is not going to take long like other conferences. But with the quality of work that they've put in through the Credentials Committee, the provincial secretaries, I think we should be able to process those items well.
So we estimate, what time are you releasing us? What time are we going to sleep? What time would you be calling the elections agency?
Today, because most of the work that we've recovered, the ground that we've lost, today when it comes to the officials of the ANC, that item will be dealt with tonight.
All right.
Even if it's late. That's what the chairperson of the ANC, Comrade Gwede Mantashe, has indicated. we should be able tonight to go through the democratic processes, electing those that will serve in the top 6. And whether we'll vote tonight or not, but we have to be able to bend the midnight oil.
Right. Let's talk realpolitik, you and I. You're a senior leader in the ANC, and I expect you to be candid with me. Let's talk in terms of all that has happened leading up to this conference. There's been this Phala matter that has been debated at length, has been subject to that Section 89 process and the voting in Parliament, which produced its own outcomes and ructions within the ANC. We saw what happened yesterday. Reading all of that, what is your sense and perspective around leadership? Should the current ANC president continue? Is he the man for this moment, or you as a delegate, a voting delegate, believe that it's time for a change? It's time for a change, sweeping changes at least at that level.
We have to note that over quite some time, the ANC has been having a number of challenges, especially with respect to issues of unity and renewal. And in the period, which is a season of elections, we have seen a number of comrades campaigning and a number of comrades doing certain things that are foreign, where they are starting to attack each other even in public. And the attacks, you could see that there is not even an issue of it being a constructive criticism. And that has actually caused a lot of tension within the organization. There's nothing wrong to contest, but we still have to remain cordial. We need to, even if we do criticism, because people have a right to criticize leaders, they have the right to criticize these issues, the policies that we do. Over the last 5 years, we should not single out the president. The NEC of the ANC has made a lot of strides, but at the very same time, big missteps were made. When it comes to issues around the fight against corruption, the president has been leading on the front in terms of dealing with the most difficult issues, including the issues of a painful decision, but a necessary decision to do a step-aside rule, the issues of commissions, the issues that we all have to learn to be accountable, and then the issues of dealing with COVID-19 and other issues. It's a mixed kind of a performance of the NEC. And the delegates, very shortly, they will also have to reflect, because if you look at the political report by the president, that he was frank, candid of our challenges, the organizational report. Yeah. Where I stand, I think the president has done well. And the delegates will ultimately make a decision. But in my book, he has done favorable to be able to steer the ship under very, very difficult conditions, both within our own movement, but also globally and in our country.
Sure, I hear you. Without you nailing your colors to the mast, I think I'm getting enough from that. Former President Jacob Zuma, what's your sense? I heard one of the provincial chairpersons, talking about how, these former leaders of the ANC are supposed to be people who bring a certain wisdom, right, and guidance. And in fact, this provincial leader was saying your expectations as members of the ANC could possibly be even higher in terms of behavior, could possibly be higher for former leaders than they are for the current leader. The divisions that have happened around him, especially as they came to a head yesterday when he walked in at the start of the political report. What's your sense of the role that he is playing at the moment, the charges that he's trying to bring in a private prosecution against the sitting president, and the sitting president labeling those as an abuse of process that should be ignored? What's your sense of the role of former President Jacob Zuma right now in the ANC?
There's an expected role, expectations, but my expectations might not be an expectation of someone else. Our understanding is that former presidents of the ANC, they hold a very special place in the ANC. We look up to them because they have served the organization at the highest level. That's why one of the decisions this outgoing NEC we took was to invite former presidents to sit in the NEC so that we can draw from their wisdom in rebuilding the organization and be able to do certain things. But over the last period that we are looking at, there have been incidents where a number of issues have come to the public domain, being raised by former presidents and sometimes directed to the current NEC leadership. but also directed at the current sitting president. There are different views. Others, they feel that these views that are raised by former president should be handling them internally. And I share the very same view because in terms of the Congress tradition. But I will not know why are they raising those particular issues. Well, the incidents that happened yesterday, I don't want it to start to judge people because when I was there, the national chairperson was handling the issues. Myself, as the responsible for peace and security, with Comrade Beg, we were able to ask the chairperson of the province, and I commend him because those few comrades who could see that there's a clear coordination in a particular line there, he was able to provide leadership as a head of the delegation there. Well, there are different views whether former president should be sitting there in the high table with the other former president, whether should he be sitting there as a delegate
singing along,
sitting there as delegate number one,
singing there along. Well,
but even members of the NEC, they are singing there. You could see that the divisions, faulty lines, deep-rooted, and the ANC must admit these are the issues that after this conference, to rebuild it, to unite it, so that we can focus on the primary mission of servicing our people and our country. That leadership that must come up, they must know that they have that biggest burden to demonstrate. Right. And we will not be able to deny that our movement is very divided, very fractured, and that's a responsibility that it must not fail in our hands.
David Mahlobo, I thank you for sharing your insights with me. You said a lot without nailing your colors to the mast, especially on the question of leadership.
I'm still being low, Peter. I'm going to be voting.
Still an NEC member for the next few hours until they are dissolved for the election of a new National Executive Committee.